The United States launched Project Freedom with a burst of muscular rhetoric. American warships escorting commercial vessels through one of the world's most dangerous choke points. Then, within days, the operation was paused. President Trump says it's because progress has been made toward a deal with Iran. But with a ceasefire described as fragile, Iranian ports still under American blockade, and at least one commercial ship captain telling the BBC his crew is under enormous pressure just being there. The question tonight is whether Washington has just projected strength or handed Tehran a win. Joining me now are Marcus Webb, our defense and security analyst, and Sophia Reeves, our economics and markets editor. Marcus, let me start with you. Is pausing Project Freedom a sign of diplomatic sophistication, or has Trump just blinked?
Thanks, Emma. And I'll be direct. This pause worries me, not because I think Trump is weak, but because the optics of launching a major naval escort operation and suspending it within the same week send a signal that Iran's strategic planners will be analyzing very carefully. Here's the thing. Deterrence is not just about what you can do. It's about what your adversary believes you will do. The moment Tehran senses that American resolve is negotiable, they start pushing. We've seen this cycle play out under Obama, under parts of the first Trump term, and under Biden's catastrophic retreat from the region. CENTCOM spokesman Tim Hawkins said the priorities remain securing safe routes and blockading Iran. Good, but a stated priority and an active operation are two very different things. Douglas Murray has written that the West has a chronic problem with finishing what it starts, with projecting force and then blinking at the critical moment. And I'm concerned this is exactly that moment. What Iran needs to see is that America will escort those ships through the strait regardless of whether negotiations are progressing, because the moment you make deterrence conditional on diplomatic goodwill, you've handed your adversary a veto over your own military posture.
But Marcus, isn't there an argument that pausing the operation to give diplomacy a chance is exactly what a smart negotiator does? If Trump keeps the blockade running and keeps military assets in the Gulf, has he really given anything away? And Sophia, what's your take? What's the economic reality here for the markets and the people actually moving goods through that strait?
Well, look, I think Marcus is making a critical error by treating this purely as a signals game without looking at the underlying economics. Here's what I think he's missing. The commercial shipping industry was already under enormous pressure before this week. We're talking about a waterway that carries 21 million barrels of oil every single day, 20% of global petroleum liquids. When insurance premiums in the Gulf spike, when tanker rates surge, and they have dramatically during previous periods of Iranian harassment, the people who pay are not diplomats, they're ordinary consumers. Petrol prices, heating bills, manufacturing costs. So yes, I want America to project strength, but I also want a deal that actually sticks, because the economic cost of a prolonged standoff in the Hormuz is enormous, and it falls disproportionately on working people. If this pause buys a real agreement with real verification, the free market case for taking it is actually quite strong.
I hear what Sophia is saying, but with respect, that misses the point entirely. You don't get a real agreement with real verification by pausing your leverage. You get a real agreement by maintaining pressure until the other side capitulates. Iran's entire negotiating history tells us one thing. They respond to maximum pressure and they exploit any sign of retreat. The JCPOA is the textbook case. The regime used that sanctions relief to increase the IRGC's defense budget by 90% within 18 months. 90%. While the diplomatic class in Washington and Brussels was congratulating itself. The economic argument for a deal is only valid if the deal is real. And the way you make a deal real is by keeping your boots on the throat until you have it, not before.
Here's what I want to know. We're 6 months out. Either this deal happens, or it collapses, or something worse unfolds. Sophia, where do you see this going? And what's the risk to global markets if this goes wrong?
The way I see this playing out, there are really two paths that markets are pricing right now. If a deal is signed with genuine verification mechanisms, something that actually constrains the nuclear program and the ballistic missile development and the proxy funding, then oil stabilizes, insurance rates normalize, and the enormous premium that global markets have been building in for Gulf risk starts to deflate. That's a real economic win. But if this pause becomes a habit, if it becomes the new normal that America launches operations and then stands them down without locking in concessions, then the trajectory suggests a gradual re-escalation of Iranian maritime aggression, and markets will reprice that risk sharply. The captain of that stranded vessel told the BBC his crew is under pressure. Multiply that across dozens of ships, dozens of crews, trillions of dollars in cargo. The economic stakes are not abstract.
Here's what concerns me most. It's not actually the next 6 months in the Gulf. It's what the next 6 months in the Gulf tells Beijing and Pyongyang and Moscow about American resolve. If Iran successfully waits out a U.S. naval operation through a combination of ceasefire rhetoric and negotiation theater, every adversary on the planet updates their model of American commitment. Taiwan is watching. Ukraine is watching. The South China Sea is watching. The real risk here isn't oil prices. It's that a pattern of American hesitation in one theater emboldens adventurism in others simultaneously. History tells us that weakness in one region is never contained to that region. That's the trajectory that should keep everyone up at night.
Marcus Webb, Sophia Reeves, a genuinely fascinating and genuinely uncomfortable conversation. One thing's for certain, somewhere in Tehran tonight, someone is reading the fine print of that pause very, very carefully.